Hello everyone, and welcome to this second portion of our first session that we're having on stormwater site plan review and a discussion of our stormwater manual and UIC rule. My name is Brian Morgenroth. I work for the city of Walla Walla, and I'm the stormwater coordinator here. I have been looking forward to putting this on with Doug for quite a while now, with the hopes of trying to bring some organization to what we all do here in the form of using our stormwater permit and using our stormwater manual and using our skills that we've acquired to review site plans to remain compliant with our permit. So I hope that's what we will be able to discuss today. And I look forward to helping you guys out and hearing any questions that you have. So as we move along here, a couple of things I wanted to say up front. I'm going to be showing some exhibits, if you will, that are real life. These are things that have been turned into us for projects under review. There are bits and pieces of information that you can get out on the web from different sources, Department of Ecology, other locations. All this is real. So I want to say that there's no judgment involved in anything that we're presenting here today. Everything is there's no harm or no foul. If you do recognize any of the information that you see here, that's just being presented as an exhibit, and we're not picking on anyone in any way. So hopefully none of this will be too terribly new to you, but it will be something that you can put into your toolbox for use so that you can get better at what you do. So what I'm hoping to do in this session and then the next session to come is basically just provide you a general overview on how we review plans here at the city of Walla Walla. But more importantly, how we review our plans and try to stay compliant with Ecology's permit. So I think Doug did an excellent job in the previous part of the session to kind of lay things out very clearly on how we're supposed to be looking at things as far as whether or not our proposed developments are going to be following the stormwater permit and the core elements, or whether they're going to be falling under the UIC rule. So I'm going to try to explain to you from maybe a little bit different lens. So a lot of the questions that I get are from the review standpoint. Okay, it's from the jurisdictional standpoint. And so Doug's given us a lot of good information as to where proponents can go to get information as far as preparing their package of information when they come in to do to submit for their review. So I think one of the biggest problems that I hear from folks that put these things together at the city here is they say, well, I didn't know where to go to. I didn't know where to look for this. I wasn't sure how to do it. You know, the manual is 1,400 pages long. You know, I wasn't sure what to do. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to look at things from both the presenter and the reviewer's point of view, and also provide you some ideas with how you can solve those problems in your jurisdiction. And if you already have them solved in your jurisdiction, then congratulations. We'll let you sit here in the chair next time and do this. So anyway, the next thing that I'm hoping that we're going to do here is we're going to satisfy a little bit of annual reporting requirements. maybe not for this year's annual or last year's annual report, but for this year's annual report next year, there are a couple of locations, a couple of questions in there that ask, you know, did you train your staff? And so I'm hoping that Doug and I's discussion in these two sessions will be enough information for you to be able to check those boxes and satisfy those requirements, and maybe not just for this year, but for years to come, since it's being recorded and you can go back and review it. And then finally, tomorrow, we're going to look at a couple of example sites. One's commercial and one's residential. And I know there's a large group of both in your jurisdictions. You have large ones, you have small ones. I picked out a couple because they are ones that are in Walla, for example. We're experiencing a lot of new growth. So we have a lot of new residential areas that are just springing up out in the middle of nowhere or on the edge of nowhere. So I hope that's going to be something that's applicable to what you'll see or are seeing. And then we're going to do a commercial site that is a redevelopment site that is located in our downtown area. So hopefully that'll be something that will look like something that you have seen or will see in the future, and you can use that. So, okay, let's move along here. Now, where do we get our guidance from? Doug did a great job on this, but I'm going to go back in and start again with our municipal stormwater permit, because it's pretty explicit about what it requires us to do as jurisdictions. So the first source of information that I list here is our stormwater permit. Specifically, it's S5B4 and S5B5. These are the locations in the permit where it actually requires us to have a program, to have it set up, and to do this review. So we'll take a quick look at this. I apologize. I put these pages on here with some highlighting so that folks could just dial right in. I also like to include page numbers in this. So if you're a Eastern Washington Phase 2 permit person, page 17 is where it starts. That's S5B4 under the construction site stormwater runoff control section. Public and private projects shall comply with these requirements. The permittee shall implement an ongoing process for ensuring proper project review, inspection, and compliance by its own departments and agencies. So the ongoing process for us is just the fact that we require development, and we'll get into the criteria limits. We require development in the city of Walla Walla to provide us with some sort of plan. Okay, so you can't just start building something on your site. You need to provide us with a plan, and most jurisdictions have that same requirement. So one of the keywords that I see in this section that I always remind my coworkers of is the ongoing process. So ongoing for us is pretty simple. We're still kind of a small jurisdiction, so we do keep our most of our information in. We track by spreadsheet. We're looking at upgrading that to a more automated system in the near future, and I'm sure most other larger jurisdictions already have that. But in this case, ongoing means you have to track it. So you have to keep track of what you did this year and what happened in the previous years, so that you can be permit requirement, or so you can be compliant with the permit. Excuse me. Then on page 18, S5B4B down here says, permittees shall implement procedures for site plan review, which incorporate consideration of potential water quality impacts. So that's pretty much exactly what Doug has been talking about in the morning session. So we have to, it's a requirement for us. We have to look at these sites and we have to determine what kind of water quality impacts they're going to have. Okay, moving on. Page 19 of the permit. So permittees shall implement procedures for site inspection and enforcement. Okay, so there you go. We're required to inspect. That is one of the maybe funner jobs of our life. Was gets us out of the office, gets us out into the real world so that we can see what's going on, right? Those of us that have turned in annual reports are aware that we're required to keep track of all of the projects that we review and all of the inspections that we perform, right? So one of those inspections is at the very beginning of the project, where we're supposed to go out and make sure that everything is looked at and is in shape to start construction. The thing that I'll point out here in this is section D here is that we are required to do training. And so again, we're hoping that this discussion is something that will provide you with this training so that you'll be able to check that box whenever you're doing your annual plan. So these training records are also supposed to be kept, as far as you're concerned, keep the dates and times of this. So obviously this one will be recorded, but for future ones, I suggest that you keep track of any time any you or your staff look at any of these types of videos in the future so that you can report that to ecology. Moving on to page number 21. Permittees shall allow non-structural preventive actions and source reduction approaches such as low impact development techniques, measurements to minimize the creation of impervious surfaces. So the permit says that we're supposed to allow our proponents to come in and do projects that include low impact development techniques. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the second session, about how that is done here at the city of Walla Walla and how possibly you can incorporate that in your jurisdiction. It's something that it's interesting as a site or plan reviewer. We're not allowed necessarily to tell the proponent how they can do their project. Obviously, if it's on a piece of property that it's going to belong to the city and they're going to operate and maintain that drainage system, then that might be the case. But if it's private property, it's usually not our job to tell them how to do this. That's up to them to figure this out. We just give them the rules for them to decide how to do it. So, but we are required to inform them that there are other low impact development techniques that are out there and that they should consider using some of those. So we'll talk about those a little bit more in the next session. So finally, S5B5 says, permittees shall implement procedures for site inspection and enforcement of post-construction stormwater control measures. So this to me speaks back to the ongoing process that each jurisdiction should have, right? Because it says in this next statement here that you're supposed to go out and inspect at least once during the installation and once upon final installation, once it's been completed. Okay, so there's your 2 inspections there during. There's 3 if you count the one in the very beginning for each one of the sites. But then the next one, DII here, says structural BMPs shall be inspected at least once every 5 years. So the ongoing part here speaks to the fact that someone needs to be tracking how many, for example, how many BMPs did the site have? How many were constructed? How many did you inspect? And then in what year was it completed, for example? For the city of Walla Walla, that's what we do. We track the completion date, and then we know that we put that on our calendars, and then at the end of the 5 years, we're back out there and we're taking a look at it again to make sure that we're compliant with the permit. And again, down here under E, it says that you'll provide adequate training involved in the permitting and planning review and inspection enforcement section to carry out all of the management plan components. So again, we hope this training will help you tick that box. So that's our first source of information. Let's talk about the next. Second source is the book, right? It is our Eastern Washington Stormwater Manual, or in the case of some of the jurisdictions that have their own approved equivalent, it is their own manual, okay? And you know who you are out there. But for most of us in Eastern Washington, we revert back to the good old manual, which was last updated August 2019. It's a large book. I suggest you, I actually use both electronic and a paper copy because I like to have the book part with paper and lots of tabs on it. But it's nice when you're doing searches to have the electronic version available. So the obvious chapters that we've sort of already talked about, but I'll point out here, Chapter 2, Core Elements, Chapter 3, Stormwater Site Plans, Chapter 5, which is the Runoff Treatment BMPs, Chapter 6, Flow Control BMPs, and then, of course, Chapter 7, which is our Construction Stormwater Pollution Prevention BMPs. So it's a heavy lift, but this is where we become the subject matter experts on what our proponents bring in. So if you haven't ever looked at the manual before, I would suggest you start looking at it and concentrate on the areas like these chapters here to get familiar with what's in it. And then, as Doug pointed out this morning, use the flow charts that are in there to help guide your decision making as far as what's being submitted for you to review. So I get many questions from folks who don't know where to begin, and they look at the manual and say, well, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do here. So I think Doug's presentation this morning was really clear on how you have to handle your stormwater and where you start. So obviously, if it's going to come in under the stormwater permit, it's going to have to satisfy the core elements. And if it's not, if you're looking at UICs, then you're going to have to come in under the UIC rule. One thing I can tell you here is that I get many submittals during the year where we get proponents that have decided to use UICs to manage their stormwater, but they still go through and do all the core elements. And I have to remind them that that is not necessary, that if they're doing the UICs and they're coming in under the UIC rule, they need to be looking at the site suitability criteria for UICs. So again, these are things that probably you will, if you haven't already seen, you will see as you look at more of your plans. And these are some of the things that you can sort of educate your proponents on, in that how they can better spend their clients' money and maybe not spend so much of it if they're doing something that's really not required for them for the submittal. What's our third set of guidance? So for us here in the city of Walla Walla, we have put together our own design standards handbook. All right. We decided that it would make life a lot easier for our proponents to be able to have a shortened version of the manual, if you will, so that they can go right in and not have to know what's in the manual, or not have to know how to navigate the manual. They should know what's in it and be able to quickly find where their project would fall as far as project tiers, because we have things split up into 3 different baskets, if you will. And also, we have our own flowcharts, if you will, to help folks understand how to get through that maze of information that is the manual. Now, our flowcharts are almost exactly the same as the ones that are in Ecology's manual. They're presented just a little bit differently, but they're basically the same. And we hope that folks, when they use this, will follow those spreadsheet or follow those flowcharts so that they understand where they are and what their project needs to present whenever they come in. We also have some checklists that are in the back that are they were, I think, originally made up for people like us who would be reviewing projects, so that we could go through and look at what was proposed and basically go through the checklist and check off and say, okay, we've got the stormwater site plan, we've got the information that we need on here, we've got all the details, we've got all the notes. I try to also direct proponents to take a look at those checklists in the back as well, to make sure that their plans are as complete as possible. Because we really, what we're looking for as reviewers is something that is complete and easy to look at. I'm sure you've experienced this before. I can't tell you how many times I have proponents that come in, they'll submit something, they know it's not correct, they know it's not complete, but they want to get it in for review. They want to get somebody to look at it, to tell them what it is that they need to finish, as far as having a complete a plan set or a complete stormwater report to have a review done. As a reviewer, that puts you in a very difficult spot, but it's really nice to have the checklist to go through. You go through the checklist, fill it out yourself, go over it with them, hand it back to them and say, revise and resubmit. Here's what you need to have. Then we can start looking at your proposal and review it. So the other thing that we try to stress a little bit more here at the city of Walla Walla is our core element number 8, which is our local requirements. We actually have a requirement that our projects, our medium and large projects, must retain the 25-year, 24-hour event instead of the 10-year event. So we're up a little bit stricter than the 10-year event. We also have an exemption that's in our core element number 8, which is 5 dwelling units or more on a parcel for a residential development is exempt from our stormwater retention rule. So we've looked at our development in the past and found that these types of developments are very much similar to our other single family residential developments. So we've exempted those out, but pay attention, it's per parcel. So sometimes that trips people up. So, and then the other thing that I wanted to mention was just any other local design documents or development standards that you may have out there. One of the things that we're looking at for our handbook is a revision. It was last revised in 2018. And some of the things that we're looking at doing, which I would encourage you to do as well, is make it really simple for the proponents to find out what their requirements are. For example, the storm size, okay? 25-year, 24-hour event, whatever that rainfall total amount is based on the Eastern Washington Stormwater Manual or your approved manual, uh, put that number out there in your guidance, in your local development standard. I have a lot of proponents that come in and they want to show me isohydals. They want to try to, you know, shave a couple of tenths of an inch off of the design storm, and then want to argue about things as far as their design is concerned. I would say just put that information out there for folks so that they have that ability to see what that is right up front. There's no questions about it. Any of that information that you can put out there so that folks don't have to spend a lot of time making decisions on what that information is. It will save developers in the long run. It'll certainly save time for you as well.